So what's with this cool fucking thing now to hate aliens? I'm serious. This is all over the internet. You can't escape it. There's this new trend that Terminator 2 and Aliens suck. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying there weren't complaints about these movies going back to when they came out. Of course people didn't like them. But for the most part, are we going to deny the critical commercial success of both of these movies? Two huge hits, very critically acclaimed, have held up as classics, still sell very well, are marketed huge, still pretty much the defining moments of this franchise's popularity into the culture zeitgeist. Okay, now here's the thing. If you don't like aliens, that's fine. I don't give a shit. If you don't like aliens, it's cool. It's your opinion. I'm not saying your opinion is wrong. However, I am getting rather tired of this trend-setting thing that's going on here. This thing that's being followed now that Alien somehow is just terrible, completely ruined the Xenomorphs, is an awful sequel to Alien, destroyed Alien. Cameron's a is a hack. I mean, it's a complete hate thing. Okay, so the main argument I've heard that breaks this down to it's like what it's basically saying without getting into all the details of film quality or not. Because I know some people, their ideas, because Alien's slower, more visual, was shot with a better film stock overall. And Ridley Scott, you could argue, has a better eye than James Cameron, although I'll get into that later, and I think that's very debatable. I think James Cameron's a much better director than Ridley Scott. However, I think Ridley Scott probably has the better eye overall with visuals. But I will get into direction later. Ridley Scott, though, makes this movie, so it's like, hey, Aliens is great as a silent film. It's one of the greatest films of all time. Cool. I agree with all of you. I love Alien. Seen it many, many times. Saw it in the theater when it was re released. Great film. Aliens comes out. James Cameron makes it. Great film. Everyone loves it. Very acclaimed. Very popular. Continues the franchise, right? Okay, now I agree with everyone on that too. But apparently now you can't have that opinion because Aliens is the reason we have so many generic video games, why there was no good sequels. I mean, I'm hearing this shit. It's all over the internet. This is spreading rapid fire, this idea that aliens suck. Now, I've also heard this about Terminator 2, but that was always the thing with Terminator 2. I remember people always saying, "Oh, Terminator 2 is not as gritty or nuanced as the original. It doesn't have that same spark and character." It's like, okay, maybe, but that doesn't make it a bad movie. It's a great fucking action film. The people who talk about aliens like it's bad, it's like they don't look at it as a separate film. It's just as well executed as an action genre film as Alien is as like a sci-fi horror film, and it executes its themes just as well as Alien did. It's just different themes. That seems to be the element here that people are so mad of. Geiger or Giger, H.R. Giger, I think it's Giger, but it could be Geiger. I'm gonna say Geiger. H.R. Geiger, he wanted childbirth to seem painful, right? Sex be painful. There's a chest burster sequence. The alien penetrates people, right? It's all about childbirth being painful and awful. There's a lot of those themes throughout it. Okay, that was the idea. It was, having a baby's painful. Having sex to have babies is painful. A lot of that stuff. It was, and that's what makes it a scary movie. That the sexual undertones with the xenomorph is very scary, and the xenomorph is very sexual in the way it's designed. Very much right up his alley, the way he designs his stuff. But now, Aliens, on the other hand, is about motherhood, right? Ripley takes Newt. We find out later in the director's cut she had a daughter. Um, but she has Newt. She becomes her surrogate mother to fight the xenomorphs on this planet and all that. And that's what the film's about. It's about motherhood and motherhood getting you over the overall struggle. It's a mother versus another mother at the end, right? Okay, cool. Now, I don't see why that's an issue. For some people, this apparently ruins the entire fucking thing, and there's a couple other issues that I'll agree with somewhat with people with aliens. Okay. People don't like that it weakened the xenomorph. I agree with this. Okay. In Alien, the xenomorph was pretty much unstoppable. In Aliens, they're blowing him the fuck away at some point. And I do wish scenes like when they all get attacked in that room with cameras and all that, when they're filming it, that it was gorier. For sure. I think there's a lot of things lacking in Aliens that could have taken it to a whole other level viscerally. Aliens has great depth in the way it's shot and put together, and it's kind of like a haunted house when you go through it. But certainly, I'm shocked that Cameron honestly didn't have more gore and parts or stuff like that. I really am. It's shocking when you watch the movie. You're like, really, this isn't that hard of an R. It's just a really intense movie. so it feels heavier than that. I'm not saying Alien was a hard R, but Alien I think was much more. It was a little darker. I'd say the implications were darker with Alien One. Now, having said that, though, Aliens isn't exactly that kind of film. It's not straight up a horror film. It's an action film and a sci-fi film. It's a sci-fi action film. That's the two things that's going on. As a sci-fi film, it's pretty great. It's got a bunch of great ideas. It's got a bunch of great themes. It's all in the service of character, and the action's never there just to be action. It's always a set piece to move story moment forward or to move a character forward. It's filled with character moments, character bits. Now the other complaint is the Marines, the Space Marines, and how generic they are. I agree with that, but my only issue is that's only probably because we've had the Space Marine cliche so much since Aliens that we're tired of it. But back when Aliens came out, this wasn't that bad. Now, I think the characters are over the top, but I still think Cameron has a self-aware humor about his films that people don't appreciate. True Lies is a perfect example of this, though. James Cameron's a very good director. He knows what he's doing. I think he knows that these characters are silly and cliche and fun, but I think he's aware of that, and that's part of the joy of Aliens and the pitch that the actors choose to play. The characters that are supposed to be serious, like Paul Reiser's character, or Michael Biehn, or Sigourney Weaver, who's terrific in the film, are great and dead serious. Now, this is just an argument about quality, okay? What film's actually better, back and forth, or whatnot? What film do you think's better directed or written or acted? That's so subjective. That's not worth arguing because people are going to have different opinions. However, I will say, I think Ridley Scott is a much, much, much lesser director than James Cameron. I think he got lucky with Alien and Blade Runner, made early masterpieces, and has been riding his whole career off that because I think most of his career is shit. Brilliant visualist, groundbreaking, visionary, changed how we see film. That's all I could say for him, really. Lacks a lot of storytelling chops. I feel most of his films are poorly put together, and thought out. I think they're just shot beautifully. A lot of them. He with Alien just shot it well, but I think a lot of the genius was the script and Geiger and it was the production design, it was the xenomorph, it was the way but he's brilliant at shooting it, so he put it together, and I think the actors elevated the characters, who I don't think are that deep, to other places, and it's a fucking amazing cast. So movies great when you're watching it. Everything's so well executed on a technical level. But really, Alien is a slasher film. I love it, but that's what it is. The Xenomorph's a slasher villain. You can't kill like Jason or Mike Myers, and it's coming after the people. It's awesome. It's one of the best. It's just so beautifully done the way it's done visually, and what it's saying with every shot means so much more. That like Blade Runner, it's beyond just being a film. It's a work of art. You can study it. Now, Alien deserves that. Aliens does lack that element. It doesn't have that element of study, but I don't think it has to. Why does that ruin the Alien franchise or the space jockey or the mythos? You still don't know everything about the space jockey at the end of Aliens. There's still so much open. There still feels like potential. What I'm interested in is that it continues the theme of man wanting to take this weapon, the xenomorphs, and use it for its own gain. Right? That's awesome in Aliens. I love they continue that. Um, and Ripley's character development from going through the pain of childbirth and fearing it to accepting motherhood, I think is completely natural. Just like in the third film, the one thing I do like is Ripley's acceptance of death. I think Ripley's human element in the center of the films, in the middle of all these ideas going on, is what gives the heart to the franchise and is more interesting than an unstoppable monster like the Xenomorph. The Xenomorph is great in simple execution and the fact that we don't know about it. But you have to take that Ripley and the way Sigourney Weaver performs her and the way she's done is so defining to even how we play video games now through these films. And each film has its huge influence on stuff like Metroid Prime and stuff. But to Aliens, it's a natural progression. What is it, like 54, 57 years in the future? Cameron's not trying to associate this with that same timeline. He jumps ahead, right? And we're dealing with aftermath aliens here. We're dealing with aliens that have been on this colony for a long time. We don't know how strong they are or how their skin works. We don't even know if these are as developed or as strong or have this everything exactly the same as the alien from the first film, the Xenomorph. That's what I like about it. It's kind of a different story in this universe featuring the same monster, but it's a different sci-fi story. It's episode in this way. Now, Alien One feels like a perfectly executed horror film, little great short story, where Aliens is kinda like more of a Twilight Zone episode or something. But as a piece of entertainment and pop art, it's absolute perfection. I mean, every idea in the original cut to pace and edit that film is so well executed by Cameron, who I think is a better director than Ridley Scott. Despite his faults as a writer, what Cameron executes in just pure cinema techniques and tone and understanding how to make compelling action. I mean, the final half hour, 40 minutes of Aliens is worthy of Alfred Hitchcock. It's so fucking suspenseful. Every choice is absolutely dead on. It's nothing but one good idea after another. The queen alien, the way the confrontation plays out, the way the final act plays out, the way that Cameron elevates the finale to another level. And the whole film, he's playing homage to the original film, which he does again with Terminator 2. This isn't a problem at all. It only makes sense in a lot of ways that the characters would repeat patterns from the original film because those are the patterns they are familiar with in dealing with these situations and the audience, so it's easier to register these things when you're watching them. It's good filmmaking. It's to reinforce what you know, but he elevates it a little bit. Like in Alien 1, you have the airlock, you shoot the alien out. In Aliens, it's bigger. It's a queen alien, it's bigger. It looks just as good. It's just bigger. The way that Cameron makes up for the issue of trying to kill the alien in the first film, which was so strong, he makes a giant fucking alien. Stan Winston designs the queen alien. She's the unstoppable force, right? She's the mother. The mother is the unstoppable force. I think that's just as interesting of a theme. The mother creating the species and the strength of the mother and the will of the mother and the survival instincts of the mother. Those are really interesting themes for a movie that aren't overtly oppressed on you. There's not speeches about it in Aliens. It's just there in the film and you understand it. So why is this bad? My theory is this is it's either being cool to be contrarian or people actually feel this way, which is fine. But I think a lot of it just came down to that they want to find they're mad about how the Alien franchise or these other franchises worked out, like Terminator. So they want to blame something for it, and then they go to like that. Well, I like the first film more for whatever the specific reason is. So fuck the second film now, and it ruined everything because it made it so commercial and big budget and different. Aliens isn't a big budget film. Cameron took a film for about 17, $18 million and made it look like a film that cost twice that amount, if not more. This film looks expensive as shit because he used all these simple techniques that he learned from Roger Corman when he was working on his films. These techniques elevate Aliens to look huge. It doesn't have that much bigger of a budget than Alien did. So it's pretty fucking impressive. Cameron did everything here like old school. I mean, the fact this film looks as great as it does with the budget it has from the time it came out, which was not a low budget, but the film looks huge and it's got amazing special effects that really hold up. This is one of the defining films and special effects from the late 80s to early 90s that set the standard that we're still living in. We're still living by the standard set by like Terminator 2, especially how to execute action set pieces and the use of special effects integrated with the set pieces. I mean, come on, guys. And what does nobody love Ripley in this fucking movie? But my issue is just because I love both movies. I even have an affection for Alien 3 sometimes because I think its themes are well done. And I think Fincher was thinking about those things when he was making the film, despite all the bullshit from the studio. There's vision in Aliens. There's real vision. Sure, it doesn't expand on some of the ideas and things that we wanted to learn more about from the first film. And yeah, it may make the xenomorph seem less interesting and physically limited. Sure, but it has other physical strengths. It makes other things claustrophobic. It takes away the idea of getting attacked by one xenomorph, which is really scary, to like dozens of them. And when you're trained to fight people, and it's different characters. The first group of characters, they're not prepared for the situations. They don't have weaponry. That's a whole different situation. They're real people stuck in the situation. The second film, these people are prepared and have weaponry, and they still get fucked. You have to elevate the stakes, sure, but he finds ways to make the stakes higher while making the characters stronger, yet they still die. The body count in the movie is still fucking high, still kills off everyone. So it's completely loyal to what the original Alien was. The Xenomorphs basically wipe everyone out. The only reason they win is because Ripley's dealt with this before. Let me throw this out to you. If Ripley wasn't in this situation, right, they would have just went there and got slaughtered, all of them. They would have just murdered everyone. They would have just got ripped apart. The only reason anyone survives in the film is due to Ripley. because of her no bullshit attitude, the practicality of it. When she, still, I'm sick of your bullshit. That's what makes Ripley a great character in that film. Is her forward thinking momentum, which is in the first one. When Cameron transfers that over, great, it just gives her a deeper characterization. He's like, hey, let's look at this woman more. Let's keep her the same. She thinks ahead. She's fucking smart, right? She's dealt with this, and her and Bishop, they're the two fucking smart things here. They're the loose cannons. They're the ones like, hey, we can figure this out. And God, what a great idea that was too, to not trust the android in the first film and then make that a core theme in the second film and explore our humanity with that. The humans are the ones trying to fuck Ripley over in the second film, right? Not the fucking robot, not the android. It's trying to help her and do the right thing. That says a lot about man, right? Uh, it's a great film. It's a great science fiction film. It's just held under more as an action film because that's how Cameron chooses to execute it and structure it and put it together. But you could see with the director's cut, like a lot of Cameron films, he had a lot more to say and do. He just wanted to make it an entertaining film as well, like really fast paced and to the point. So my question is to all these people who hate aliens. I really want to know the deeper meaning why you hate aliens. Because to me, aliens does everything that Alien did just as well in a different genre and in a different platform, but it stays loyal enough to the original film and what it was that it doesn't have to be the exact same thing. And I don't think it goes against the vision of Giger completely. It's not some fuck you thing. And I don't think the artist's original vision and hope for something is the most important element to art. I don't care what the original artist wanted it to be entirely. That doesn't mean he executed that idea, even though it was. And that doesn't mean that other ideas built off that can't change it if they're good. Aliens is good. We should enjoy that something could be different and still be good, right? That's what's awesome about fucking Aliens is that it's not the same film Alien was. If it was the same fucking film. If he tried to make Alien again, we'd just be comparing it too much. He made something else. He made a James Cameron movie. That's what I wanted, just like I wish David Fincher could have made a David Fincher movie more with Alien 3. Thank God the directors for the first two films, at least, got to express their vision clearly. So we got two unique, different visions in this universe that we can watch separately, and they don't really clash with each other that much. The time jump is such a great way to skip over that issue. Sure, Ripley's the same, but time has passed so far that it doesn't matter what happened in the original Alien anymore. So Cameron's not really associating it with it that much and not really being a direct sequel. He's kind of making a standalone film in so many ways, which is what makes his sequels so good, is that he approaches them as films that have to work on their own that you can just watch without thinking about the original film. Because I think Cameron likes the idea of each film being a film on its own when he does anything. I think every idea he tries to have, he wants it to be executed in its own film well enough to work. I think he knows Titanic and Avatar melodramas, old classic Hollywood melodramas, and he makes them that way and executes them that way, and they make that kind of money. I think he could pretty much do anything. I think the one thing he'd probably fail at is making a complete comedy or something like that, and I'd still watch it. When it comes to blockbusters, you just can't compete with Cameron. This is him in prime form. Just like Alien is Ridley Scott in prime form. I'll take that fucking Pepsi Coke challenge any day of the week. That's awesome. Let's celebrate this. Why can't the community come together like we used to and be like, fuck yeah, Alien and Aliens? Then everything went to shit. Come on, guys. I'm sick of this. Okay, I'm sick of hearing about how Aliens is bullshit and ruined everything. If anything, it kept the franchise alive and took it to new places and gave us different aesthetics and ideas that we hadn't seen before in it. The fact that the studio and the franchise itself didn't keep this going well, that has nothing to do with James Cameron. That's not his fault. He was trying to do something different. Let's give him credit enough for that. He wasn't trying to rehash the original film. I mean, that's really he could have done that. He could have just made a slow horror film again with the xenomorph. He could have done that and got away with it. Instead, he said, "Hey, I'm going to make a film that's bigger. I'm going to up the scale a little bit. I want to make something different." Yeah, thanks, James. But it's cool to hate on James Cameron now because he's not the James Cameron we all used to love. I miss that James Cameron too, but let's not start shitting on his old films that were great. I mean, holy fuck, come on, people. It, I don't know. I'm just getting so sick of this that now it's cool to shit on some of these films that were that are great movies just because they're a little dated or they have some hacky dialogue. People have this problem with like Superman, Richard Donner's Superman now because the final, the first half's amazing. I don't know if people don't put but everyone focuses on the second half when they go to Metropolis and Lex Luthor gets all jokey in the final half hour. People never talk about the first half of that movie anymore, where they're on Krypton, and when Superman first lands at Smallville and him living there and growing up and growing, that stuff's amazing. It's still one of the best single like stretches of any superhero film ever made. And you can watch it and it still holds up despite the cheesy special effects, because Richard Donner did such a great job directing it, and it's so well acted and shot and made and written. It's a beautifully written movie at that point. It's very serious and heavy. It feels like Superman. But so many people want to shit on those movies now. They say they're outdated and cheesy, and that's fine. But I hate that we lost the context now that films can't be taken for what they are historically in the year they came out and what they were then, and how they can be viewed in that way. I mean, when I watched Citizen Kane, part of the reason I love watching it is seeing what Orson Welles was doing as a young man at the time that wasn't being done in every film. So I like seeing the things Cameron did in the '80s with Aliens with a limited budget. I mean, it shows you that if you make a film if you make a film smaller, if you focus on the idea of less is more and not revealing too much and stuff like that, the movies feel bigger. Movies feel so small now because they're full of complexity and all these special effects and shots. Back then, the special effects are background elements, and staying on the human element was the idea. That's what Cameron was doing, was the core human element. That makes the film feel huge because you're with that person, so everything they go through, you start to connect it in your head, and you're like, "Shit, we've done a lot now." Right? Ripley's journey is huge in this movie. It's huge, and I love going on that journey with her every time I watch this film, and every time she gets to that "Get away from here, you bitch," it's completely earned. And Cameron earns it, and he deserves respect for earning that. Aliens is fucking great. And so's Alien. That's the thing. They're both fucking great. Let's just love both of them and enjoy that they fucking exist and it's awesome. And let me go watch my Blu-rays of them and be like, fuck yes. And Terminator 2. Stop shitting on Terminator 2. Yes, the plot and structure is pretty much exactly the same as the first fucking movie. That doesn't stop the action scenes, special effects, acting, and dialogue from being fucking badass in that movie. That movie has so many fucking good things about it. But fuck you if you have a fucking issue with those minor quibbles and the fact that the original creator of the fucking film wanted to steal some of his own ideas. Boo fucking who. Sorry, Cameron wanted to steal some of his ideas. Doesn't matter. He did enough new things with it visually. Aliens doesn't steal that many ideas from the first film. I like that the xenomorphs are weaker in this and cannon fodder. It makes more sense for this film. Now, that wouldn't make sense for Alien, but people can't seem to see the difference that they are very different films. But whatever. If you hate Aliens, you fucking hate Aliens. I love it. Aliens is badass. And, old school James Cameron for me is pulp action cinema, that comic book feeling at its absolute finest. And I will take that any day of the week as a sequel to a classic sci fi film.